What up, Gripsters and random YouTubers? Evan here for Grips.com, continuing with my review of Joan Mordan's $13,000, $155 win in the Double Deuce. I think that's worthy of like $7 signs. We're getting well into the money now in this review. If you haven't yet, please watch parts 1 and 2 so you can get up to date with the action. Blinds are big, antes are escalating, and opponents, well, ironically, a lot of them are tightening up. It's probably because they're spending so much time checking the leaderboard and watching those payouts on the regular, which is a big no-no when it's still so far away, even though it may feel like it's close. Joan's sitting on about 20 big blinds, so we'll probably see a quick lesson in reshoving. Let's get right into it. We don't got no time to waste. We got pokes to play and lessons to learn so we can play better pokes. Pot odds check. Need 35%. We got a Broadway. Guy's shoving like 5 blinds. I call. God, how do you fold, Joan? It's only 10K of your 60K and your price is insane. There's 20K to win. I would always call here. Just think about like how wide this guy's shoving. This guy's down to 5 blinds. He's going to be putting it in with a lot of hands. And you know what? Let's give him a tight range, and it's still going to be a call. When you're getting 2 to 1, if you have a hand that can flop anything, it's probably going to be profitable call. 10%. Boom. Okay, losing at 10%. Give him all the pairs. It's profitable, and you know he's probably shoving this stuff too, so boom, profitable, clearly profitable. I call. Joan didn't. Whatever. That's what's cool about poker. You can make whatever decision you want. So we're all in here. Just a proper reshove. Again, some players you might go with a smaller 3-bet to give your opponent the opportunity to 4-bet all their chips in. Really depends what you think your opponent's capable of doing that with and which way you're more likely to get action. So here a raise is cool. A shove, okay. I thought it was a lot, but both stacks in the blinds have under 10 big blinds. So although it looks like we're shoving 70K, we are effectively shoving about 28K. And a king on the button for 10 blinds, I believe is a profitable shove. And we get called by Queen Jack. See, Queen Jack, you have a great chance of... Not a great chance of winning anymore. Later, chirp. You're out of here. Okay, so on a new table, Joan is probably going to do what he's done on a lot of other tables, which is build up a fairly tight image by doing things like folding ace-6 suited, and folding king-queen to early position raises, which is totally fine, totally cool, and if you don't have that gear in your game, you should consider adding it. It's not something you need to be doing all the time, but it's definitely something you need to be capable of doing. Alright, so we're facing a 10 blind shove, need 43%, king-queen suited, pretty strong here. Would probably call. I think this guy's going to be shoving all kinds of broadways, all kinds of pairs. We're going to be in good shape. It's going to have stuff like ace-5. See how we flip. Well, that's a really good board for him. Until the river. Oh. There. And back to folding. Thoughts of a 3-bet. This is a pretty good spot to 3-bet. This player, Zack Attack, has quite a few chips and therefore probably opens a pretty wide range from this position. We have not only a blocker with the ace, we have a suited ace, which is a very strong hand and a great hand to have in your 3-bet range for semi-bluffs. That's if you have any semi-bluffs. If you only 3-bet value hands, then go ahead and muck the ace-3 suited, but that's definitely one that I would consider popping in there. I wonder if this is a call for 8 blinds. It appears that it is. But, you know, we would have got ambushed behind by the ace-king. And it's important to think about that. Recognize how many players are still left to act and what the likelihood is that if you call someone's all in, someone behind you is going to wake up with a hand and force you to a tougher decision. I see a 3x raise here. I'm very interested as to why he chose that size, and if he has a pair, 2 overcards, we have about 26%. Pot odds say we need 38. This, you know, you're like, man, how is this guy making this play? This is so dumb. But hey, it's just a disciplined fold. A lot of players in these smaller buying tournaments are gonna play their medium pairs like that, even some of their stronger pairs like jacks like that, because they just want to make sure no ace or king hits the flop before they commit. I'm not saying it's the right play. I might even say that it's the wrong play, but hey, that's what they do, and we just need to acknowledge that. So Joan is not taking the approach of raising every steal spot he can. He's not raising every button. He's not raising a ton of cutoffs. He's not raising a lot of decent blocker type hands that can flop okay in early position. And that's cool to see. It's good to see that you don't need to be taking every spot to win a tournament necessarily. It really depends on like the field. Obviously for 3 blinds, ace jack is good enough to run it here. Generally speaking, the tougher the field, the more stuff you're gonna have to do, the more active you're gonna have to be able to stay afloat, get ahead, and make things happen. But in these weaker fields, especially these really big, weaker fields, you can actually get away with playing a fairly solid game and still get the job done because other people are just playing really poorly and they make all the mistakes for you. So you don't have to do things to cause them to make mistakes. They're already making mistakes. You just have to let them continue to make mistakes. Whereas if you're playing a tournament where people don't make a lot of mistakes just cause, you're going to have to do things to put them in a position to make mistakes by taking them off their game, making them uncomfortable, and whatnot. All right, so we got a nice stack, 40 big blinds. We're really laxed, and something happened there. My bad. I didn't think that we were going to play the 3-9 offsuit, but I saw when it was folded to us, and this guy only has 10 blinds. Joe says, I'm going to put him in. I'm going to put him to the test. Probably 80% of the time, this guy's going to fold. Hey, let's look at it. Let's look at it together. Let's look at how often he's going to fold. So, what's the top 20%? Do you guys think he's calling off with stuff like Jack 10 offsuit, Ace 4 suited? Stuff like that? I don't know. That would be 25%. I don't think he's calling off with King 9, 10 8 suited. This is 15%. So I think about 12.5%. We're probably getting called about 12.5% of the time. And even when we get called by that, with they like 3-9 off, this junky hand, man, it is probably one of the worst hands in the game. Still probably gonna have like 30%, 27. So let's see, 85% of the time we can pick up 10K, and then of the 15% of the time we get called, we win like a 80K pot, chip up 45K, 27% of the time. You know, there's a lot of winning there. And this guy calls us with Queen 10 suited. So maybe he's doing that, sorry bro, maybe he's doing that top 20%. And the more you know about how wide someone's willing to call you and how many hands they'll fold, the more correctly you can shove there. Don't understand how he folded an ace on the button. Maybe these players are both, maybe the players in the blinds are both really aggressive and really loose, and Joan expects to get 3-bet there, as he gets 3-bet here. And he just didn't want to deal with that spot. And that's perfectly fine. If you have those kind of players, you don't necessarily need to raise every button. But yeah, what I was saying earlier is, against those guys who are going to be calling really wide, or quote-unquote calling correctly, you don't want to be shoving those worst hands, those bottom-end hands like 9-3 off, 7-2 off. But against someone who, you know, maybe there's a tight player who's actually, you know, it's like the Sunday Million and he qualified for $1 and you're like 45 left and he's getting all these pay jumps. That guy might fold like 95% of hands, and yeah, you could shove any 2 cards there profitably. Okay, here with the jacks, This guy already seems active from the 2 hands I've seen. I think we 4-bet, and if he goes all in, we just call. This is a spot where we're playing for about 35 big blinds. We have him covered, and our hand is just so likely to be good. If Joan's trapping here, cool. I think it's just really tough to play a 3-bet pot out of position, even with a hand as strong as Jack's. I would definitely 4-bet this guy to something like 40K, 38K, and give him a chance to just 5-bet it all in with whatever he 3-bet me with. He's probably going to have between 20 and 30% equity all in pre, whereas if we go to the flop, well, I guess he can have less equity when we flop a jack. So this board is fairly wet. Seems fishy, but I'll probably check min raise. Joan goes for the same thing. This guy folds. So he just didn't have much. And we extracted some chips out of him by getting the c-bet from him, but we happened to flop really well. And I don't know if Joan was going to continue on enough boards where he didn't flop hard to make LM, LN, 1, 2, 3s play bad. And that's the thing. You don't want to let people be taking advantage of you. The 3-bet, c-bet is a pretty strong play. So you gotta have your contingency plan about how you're going to play back to it. And it can't just be, I'm going to flop a set. So we got it. Too bad the board wasn't a little drier. Could have got more value. And I don't know how he's passing up on these spots. Like ace-9 in the hijack, like you can definitely profitably raise that. There's not, like, we have all the chips. We have all the chips on the table. And the blinds are really big. People, no matter how active they aren't going to want to get involved with the one guy who can just game over them. So I'd like to see Joan opening a bit more, but I understand the strategy that he's using, and I think it's perfectly fine for these tournaments. I'm just trying to get you guys thinking about what's profitable, how far you can push the envelope before you're going just crazy, maniacal, burning money. Man, blinds are getting big. Blinds are getting big. Are we going to call? Are we going to 3-bet? We're just going to fold. And Joan is really protecting the stack. This is a lesson in how to make sure you do not lose your chips. Because if you never engage the people who have more chips than you, it's pretty hard for you to lose them all, especially when you have this many big blinds. We're going to open this on the button at least? Cool. I'm going to predict we're not opening this, and that's fine. And we're not opening this, and that's fine. Could we make money opening those? Probably. Are there players out there who open those hands? Definitely. Does that mean you have to open them? No. No. You open them if you feel like it's correct. Anytime it's a spot where it's like, maybe gain a bit by doing it, maybe lose a little bit by doing it, you do whatever you want. It's only certain spots where it's like, okay, you have to play this hand or else it's really bad. Like, you know, like if you get dealt aces and you don't raise them, you fold them. That's clearly bad. You know, Jack 10 suited in certain positions, you can go either way. And many different styles will work, as I always say. Ooh, we played a hand. Okay, we're gonna ISO this limp. Cool. And this is a flop where we can definitely get some value. So we see that same lead out. I like the raise here. I like the raise here. We kind of just take control of the hand. If he's got some sort of draw, we're going to have control of the action. We're not going to have to blindly call down on the turn without knowing which cards are good for us, which cards are bad for us. And on this, we can just bet away, knock him off his hand. People's leading ranges are very different. They're so unique. Some people will lead super strong. Some people will only lead medium strength. Some people will only ever lead with total garbage, and they're always folding to a raise. And that's something you have to really pay attention to in people, because like I have yet to find two people who have the same leading range. The good news is people don't lead out all that often, so you don't have to worry about it too much, but it is something you should be prepared for. Okay, this board is one I actually think we're going to get messed with fairly often, especially against a guy with this many chips. I'll probably check fold this board. And so Joan does the same, but he waits till the turn. So he lost a couple extra big blinds doing that. It's just a board that really connects with a lot of hands and is good for floating. And it's just hard for us to do a lot with the early position razors range on that board. Anyway, moving on. We got some folds until we got a par. And I guess we're gonna flat. The price is extremely good. We're getting really good odds. For betting, don't really see much point in it. So let's just try to flop something. Get a C bet. And this is an interesting board because, yeah, it's good for the pre-flop 3-better. It's very dry. But if this guy's 3-betting wide, he actually doesn't have that many King X hands in his range. He's a lot more Ace X hands and all kinds of broadways. There will be some kings, but not a ton of kings. So Joan's check raise on this flop is actually very cool. And I like it. It shows, you know, if you're going to make this play, you can get away with defending the 3-3 out of position. If you're not, think twice about it. The price was really good. I think it was fine to peel regardless. But I like to see that Joan has a little bit of move in his game, even in this first double deuce win. I think in the second one, we're going to see a lot more. But this is a really, really well-timed play. And since Joan's been playing pretty solid, pretty tight, he's going to get more credit for having a real hand when he does this. Like when you see a tight player make a move, you just say, well, he's tight. He's not capable of pulling one over on me. So he definitely has it. And that's what Joan did here, and it's great. Really big pot, kind of reasserts himself and makes it such that maybe John will be a little less likely to mess around with us, which is great because he's the only other big stack on the table. Okay, Causeway seems to be opening a bit. That King 10 suited, possible 3-bet. There's so many possible 3-bets, so many optional spots. Same thing here. Chip Condor is opening a bunch. We could definitely 3-bet the Ace 10, but definitely don't need to. I think I'd like to have seen a slightly bigger 3-bet, given that we're out of position. Too late for that now, though. I like the large C-bet on this board. This board is very somewhat dry, kind of connected, but we'd like to get him off. King Queens, Ace Queens. Probably doesn't have Ace King, but he's all in. So either he slow played a big pair or he flopped a good draw. That's okay. I think if we do a bigger 3-bet pre-flop, we can define his range a little bit better. That being said, I don't think we were winning that pot no matter what we did. All right. 8-6, open. Okay, I'm starting to get a feel for it. He's more about them suited connectors and them suited gappers than he is those offsuit broadways, and that's cool. The ironic thing is, like, how do you play 8-6 suited and not Ace-4 suited? Ace-4 suited is so much of a better hand. The ironic thing is, in these shallow stack situations, hands like offsuit broadways and aces play so much better than the suited connectors, the suited gappers. Those suited hands are really good for deep stack play. Like, the deeper, the better. In these, like, more shallow stack situations, you just want big cards. Big cards is all you really need. So I'd much rather open like a King 10 off than a 7-5 suited in mid or late position in a tournament. Anyway, blinds continuing to creep up there. Gordon Gekko, recognized, very good player. So there are a few strong players in the mix in things like the Double Deuce for sure, but overwhelmingly the field is going to be small stakes grinders, weak tight players, satellite players, and just like recreationals. There's a lot of really good value in these medium, small buy-in tournaments, especially on the weekend. Saturday, Sunday is when you guys can make Heaps of cash. So if you're watching this video when it's released on Saturday, today, I hope you're ready to fire up a session after you're done, because this is a good opportunity. Okay, slow it down. So we have 18 big blinds, and Malak opens the cutoff. Big blind is short, small blind is very big. I don't know if he's going to be raising to steal here, because he's going to be priced in to call the big blind. And if he's not raising to steal here, this is a really risky reshove. Ace rag is an okay hand. You're always going to have like about 30% against a calling range. That's the beauty of having an ace. Being said, that's usually what you got, 30%. You don't usually have 60. That's only going to happen when you get called by king queen. So when you get called, if you reshove with ace rag, you're going to find yourself in that mediocre shape. But if they fold, it's fantastic, and having the ace, decreases the chances that you're going to get called by someone who has an ace. And Joan has a really great stack size for this, around 18, 19 big blinds. Now, as I say, I would rather have a hand like king 10 or king queen here, but we don't have king queen here. We didn't get dealt that. We got ace deuce. Joan believes that this guy's raising the cutoff and folding enough that picking up that 54K in the middle is worth it. In worst case, he's got an ace. Unfortunately, he gets ambushed by eights, but 30%. 30% when it's for $500,000, that's enough. I'll take $500,000 chips this deep in the double deuce 30% of the time and go home 70% of the time. Because that 30% of the time I got $500,000 this deep in the tournament, probably going to be able to make some serious money. And that's what the tournaments are about, making those big scores. You got it, no guts, no glory, no gamble, no future. It's good to see the man taking a chance. He's going to take a chance here. Hell yeah. And c-bet and win. Cool. I'm interested about this small sizing, Joan. Why, where you learned to go with the min 3-bet, and you're priced in now. Interesting to see the guy go with it more clearly committed. Yeah, I'm interested to hear where you saw the min 3-bet out of position and the reasons behind it, the merits, the strengths, because it seems to be working. I see that you keep the pot smaller, and you risk less. If you're hoping to take it down with your c-bet most often, it's going to cost you less on your c-bet when it fails. So I get that, but I'd love to hear more about why you did it in this tournament, if you've still been implementing it in your tournaments more recently, if it's been working, or if you opted to change that, and reasons for it. All right, this is a pretty strong hand. I would imagine we're not folding. The question is flat or 3-bet. Well, this guy's opening on about 25 big blinds. So do we want to flip in? And he's probably opening fairly wide, so we could 3-bet. Maybe get it in against some worse aces, but most often just to take the pot down pre-flop. And this guy's got 200K in the big. Yeah, I think I would 3-bet and call. I can definitely see flatting, keeping his range wide, keeping the worst hands in there, and decreasing our investment, decreasing our losses when we get cooler. Great board to float, and then we just have to fold. We flopped. If we thought we had the best hand pre-flop, on a board this dry, we're still fairly often going to have the best hand. Plus, there are a bunch of turns we can continue on: jack, queen, king, ace, or diamond. So I'm happy to see Joan floated there. It's kind of like if you're going to flat pre-flop instead of 3-betting, you could use that extra bet you saved to float. Personally, I don't know. I like the idea of 3-betting and just calling it off pre, but it's also not my chips. And I'm putting at risk. So it's easier for me to say that when I'm just watching than when I'm in the moment playing. If this guy was tight, definitely get flatting. If he's any kind of loose, though, I think just the opportunity to take down that like 70K in the middle, no showdown, is so worth it. And if you gotta run it with ace queen suited, C5 cards with ace queen suited, I can think of a lot worse situations to be in than that. What are we playing? 7-handed. So we're probably starting to get fairly deep in the tournament, given that we're on an 8-handed table. So in the future episodes, I will slow down the replayer and we'll start, watching the entire game flow, watching as many hands as we can, because this is the stage of the tournament where every decision is magnified so much. Everything is worth so much more. So we have to know as much detail as possible. Here he is raising again. And did we raise this? Because we can have folded too. So because it's so important to know what's going on, I'm going to slow the replayer down in upcoming episodes so that you guys can experience what it's like to pay attention to everything and get you guys thinking about what kind of notes you want to take on your opponents, what sort of things you want to look out for, so that you can make correct adjustments and maximize your chances of making good money. What do you guys think? Call? Yeah, call. Really interesting to see that guy put it in with no fold equity there with A7. I guess, he assumes that we're going to be opening fairly wide with this stack, and he thinks A7 is going to do fine against that range. Little does he know we're not opening that wide, and regardless, I think A7 is just a really shitty hand. If you think about the chances of winning against everything, but he gets lucky, so probably feels like that was the right play, and he'll continue to do that. And as annoying as it is to lose 100K chips, we want him to keep doing that. We want him to keep making that mistake. That's one of the ways that we can make our money in tournaments. So this would have been a fine spot to 3-bet, but when someone else takes the spot ahead, you just gotta say, okay, I'll wait around for the next one. Joan folding the king-queen suited. What was he up against? 7-9 off. So we know that this guy's out of line. Having seen the last hand, I don't think I would have folded the king-queen. I'm not sure if I would 3-bet or just flat it. Again, king-queen suited, kind of like ace-queen suited, is a hand that plays pretty well if you can see all 5 cards. And this guy seems pretty loose. Depends how much he has and how much we're willing to risk if we want to flip or not. But against a player like this, definitely would like to see Joan get involved. But as I've said many times, he's playing that protect ya stack strategy until now. First, I thought this player had 100,000. I was going to say, this is bad. But I see. C-Dubs has 1 million. He's probably opening fairly wide. X-West has 500,000. 28 big blinds, which means he can flat somewhat wide. Malak very rarely has a hand. He's one guy we don't have to worry about. And we're looking at 170,000 in the middle. This is like a 50% chip up if we can get it through. And what we need is Z-Dubs to not have a hand and X-West to not be trapping. I'm very rarely worried about the last guy in the pot. So I like the spots. I like that we're taking it and we're going for that chip up. What I don't like is our hand. If you think about the hands that will call us, 8-6 suited is going to be in pretty bad shape. Just as a quick example, we're going to take 2 ranges and we're going to take 2 hands. So first one, we're going to go with top 15%. No, we're going to get called by the top 10%. We have 8-6 suited. Our equity, 33%. What if we have King-Jack offsuit? 34%. And what if we have Ace-9? 36%. And if we have a suited ace, 39%. Okay. Let's change the range to 15% and do the same exercise. Where'd you go, mouse? 8-6 suited. 35%. King-Jack off. 42%. Ace 9 off, 42.5. And ace 2 suited, which is the same as ace 5 suited, 43%. So what I'm trying to show you guys with this exercise, the point I'm trying to get across, is that high cards matter. And these suited connectors, they can be dangerous. That's all. Anyway, Joan takes the spot for good reason. And unfortunately, we run into not one hand, but two. King, queen, and ace, king. And the ironic thing is, I guess this is one spot where having king, jack off, ace 9 off, or ace 5 suited are all much worse than having 8-6 suited. C-Dubs was onto our shenanigans, and he was oi. So we're going to slow this one down and run that board. Ooh, pair. Nice hand, nice pot. 1.4 million shipped our way. And next hand, A. I think that's a good spot to wrap it up. Part 3 of the series is complete. We have worked our way up to 70 big blinds with a little bit of luck and a good amount of skill to even be at this stage in the tournament. By playing the protective style, Joan is still in the tournament at this point and was able to put himself in a position to get lucky for 1.5 million instead of being out a long time ago. Now, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel below so that you can be informed when upcoming parts are released. There's a button right there. It's super easy to click. It's red. You've probably already clicked it. If you've got questions about hands, please post them in the comments, and Joan, myself, and the Grips community will be happy to help out, clear things up, answer those questions, get you thinking about poker the right way, and get those mental juices flowing. And if you want to join Team Grips, just make your way on over to grips.com and sign up. Easy as pie. Always a pleasure. This has been Evan. I'll see y'all tomorrow. In the meantime, go out there and get stacking. I mean, it's Saturday. Fuck else would you be doing?